right, welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. This is episode number 107. I'm that other dude, Andrew, and as always, I'm joined by Heather. And today, it was your turn in the rotation, so we're going to be talking about a band called Vanishing Kids.
Yes.
So I will hand you the baton, and you can take it away.
Okay. Well, Vanishing Kids are from Madison, Wisconsin. So I don't recall talking about any bands from Wisconsin. So this might be the first. And I'm from Illinois, so nice Midwestern theme going on. I feel like the music as a whole, it's just a vibe. It's dark, mysterious, haunting, beautiful. I became familiar with them with their last album, which was called Heavy Dreamer, and that was released in 2018. And I don't really remember how I had heard of them, but I just remember that the cover art on their album was so striking and so beautiful. And then I ended up following the artist that did the cover art for the album. Her name is Daria Lazatova. She's a Ukrainian artist, and she creates these really beautiful, colorful, intricate pieces of art. So Vanishing Kids, they released a new album called Miracle of Death in October of 2023. And it still has this dreaminess to it. The vocals are hauntingly beautiful. I love the use of different instruments like the violin, the organ, and synthesizers. The music has a richness to it. The guitar adds an otherworldly experience to the music. I've wanted to talk about this band for a while, but I've never really had the words to properly describe what this music is. I'm not knowing how to articulate what I'm hearing. It's like, do you need answers from the universe? Do you need to go on a vision quest? I feel like this music is a catalyst to help you find the answers that you're seeking.
Absolutely. I ran into a similar problem in trying to articulate anything that could provide context for this music. A lot of times I feel like we listen to bands that are unique sounding, and it's
Yeah.
sort of difficult to compare them to anyone. But I hadn't heard of Vanishing Kids, and the first thing that I looked up was that they were from Madison, Wisconsin, which um, the only thing I'm familiar about in terms of Madison is that the university is there. And one of my best friends went to school there, and he told me how big of a college town it is. So I would be curious to talk to them about what the music scene is like in Madison if you play heavy music. Um, I would imagine it would be similar to discovering it. Like Nashville has a pretty vibrant metal scene, and Wyoming does as well. Um, so I would be curious to talk to them just about what life in Madison is like and what the scene is. The other thing that really struck me is they've been together for almost 25 years, um, or at least they have albums dating back to almost 2000. Uh, so that was really interesting because they've put out a lot of music. And I read on the metal. There's a database. I think it's called Metal Archives, which has all their information, listed for all these bands. It's great. But I guess originally Vanishing Kids had a more psychedelic gothic rock sound, which developed into more of a doom psychedelic gothic metal sound. And I think the latest album is really sort of I've only listened to Miracle of Death. I haven't listened to their other albums. So, but I think from what I read, this is really representative of that later shift in music. Um, I was really struggling to find out what. So I found on a website called Angry Metal Guy. He wrote, "The Miracle of Death is a darker, doomier album than the sometimes upbeat Heavy Dreamer, with a noticeably melancholic edge hanging over the material. It still features that special Vanishing Kids magic. However, and the band continues to mine a vein of emotive music that is uniquely their own. I've struggled to explain what Vanishing Kids sound like to people before, and 2 reviews in, I know I'm not doing complete justice to the music they create. It simply has to be heard and dwelled within." So I think that lines up exactly with going on a journey, taking a vision quest, putting this music on. There is really a haunting, melancholic quality to it. I think that definitely comes through in most of the songs. There's striking vocals and really a somber, beautiful element to it all. But I was I only listened to Miracle of Death. I'll probably have to go back now and listen to more of their catalog just to get a context of how they've sort of developed and honed their sound over time. But yeah, this was one of those things where I really, really struggled to articulate how I would best represent the music in my own words, and I couldn't. So I had to use someone else's.
Yeah, that's yeah, and that's why I I had them on the calendar before, and then I took them off, and then I put them back on again, and too, I was like, I don't really know how to describe what I'm hearing because it's so you they had their what they have going on is just so unique, and the quality of it is just amazing, and I don't really know how to describe it.
Well, I think I really enjoy Angry Metal Guy's last sentence of "it simply has to be heard and dwelled within." You just sort of need to. It reminds me of uh, Lester Bang's comment in Almost Famous, where he's on the radio and he says, rock music, true rock music, it chooses you. It lives in your headphones and in, the tape deck in your car. And it's sort of like, to understand this music, you need to live where the music is, in the stratosphere of zoning out, just throwing the album on and listening to it front to back, and probably listening to it multiple times. So
Yeah, yeah. I yeah, and like the cover art for this album, it kind of looks like they're melting, on the front, and um, I think that kind of, I think it kind of represents how the music might sound, and like the psychedelic aspect to it,
sure,
you know. Um, and in their Bandcamp description, they kind of mentioned, you know, uh, what the album, like the different emotions that the album covers, and what the songs might represent. So it seems to, go out kind of all over the place on different emotions that you're feeling,
sure,
and and I think the music. So I think the music tries to, you know, when you're listening to the songs and everything that has been experienced in these past few years, the good and the bad, I think is all kind of represented in the songs on the album.
sure. I also, on a personal note, enjoy listening to you say words that will really play out your Midwestern accent. So saying
Oh, what did I
Wisconsin
say?
or Wisconsin. Um,
Yeah.
so that
How do
makes
you
me.
say?
I
How
well,
do you say?
I say Wisconsin sort of like it's almost an O,
Uh-huh.
and it's that when you say it, it sounds like Wisconsin with like an A. So,
Really?
but it's not. I mean, it's nothing. It's being a New Yorker who's been told time and time again, why don't you have an accent? So
Huh.
because if you grow up in New York City, you usually don't have It's if you grew up in the Bronx or Queens or Brooklyn or Staten Island, you're usually pretty thick. But New York City, for some reason, so I've become really attuned to the nuances. So the fact that we're talking about a band from the Midwest, and you can, there are certain words that I really love the way you pronounce them.
I have an aunt and two cousins that live in Wisconsin, and they live like in the upper part, and their accent. It's funny. The more north you get, the more Canadian it starts to sound.
Sure.
So it's funny. It's funny, listening to them talk because they have more of the Canadian accent going on.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's fun.
yeah. I mean, it was interesting because going into this, I really didn't know what to expect. Um, you hear about a band who's out of Madison, Wisconsin, and the name Vanishing Kids doesn't really give you, much of a hint. I mean, it's abstract enough that it could mean a lot of things, the band name.
Yeah.
So going into it, I had no idea what to expect. Um, and then I read some of the descriptions, and I saw one of the tags was shoegaze and psychedelic, and I was like, oh well, this is up Heather's alley. Um,
Yeah.
and I always give you the benefit of the doubt, no matter what band. If you're going to suggest we listen to it, I'm like, well, they're going to be good. Whether or not they resonate with me on a personal level, is hit or miss, but I know they're going to be good. And this was one of those things where it was just, I spent so much time thinking, this is awesome, but how do I describe it accurately for people? Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to say that's going to do this justice? Because
Yeah.
I also didn't want to paint them with one brush and be like, well, they're a gothic band, and then there's so much more happening. So
Yeah. Yeah. And their band name, I'm really curious about too.
yeah,
Like what, because like you say, it could mean a lot of different things, and I'm really curious what their band name, what it means to them.
yeah.
How
If we
how
if we
that came to be.
if we get the chance to speak with them, that's definitely going to be a question. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a feeling it could be, something serious like the loss of innocence, or growing up, or it could be, um, like with Slow Green Thing being named after the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles originally. Vanishing Kids could be like the name of a bar that went out of town. It went out of business called Kids, and they just decided like Vanishing Kids. So
Yeah. Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows? But,
But I mean, you can tell by listening to this that these are incredibly talented musicians,
oh yeah,
uh, you know, and the sound that they have is so incredibly unique to them. And you can tell that they've been playing together, you know, for a while, and they really know what they're doing. They really have a sense of what they sound like and what they're doing, and
sure.
it comes through, really comes through in the music.
Yeah, it is. It is. I would do. I mean, you could go either way. I think starting with the latest release and working backwards might be interesting. Or you could start with the first album and work your way forward. There's no
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
right or wrong way to go about doing this. As long as you're
yeah.
listening to the music,
There's no rules.
there are no rules. Rules go right out the window. We don't believe in rules on Happy Hour with Heather and Guest.
No, no,
We yes, as
definitely
long
not.
however you'd like to consume the music, that's your prerogative.
Yeah, and I feel like art shouldn't have any rules anyway.
As Bobby Brown once said in the song of the same name, it's your prerogative. You can do what you want to do.
Yes,
But yeah, no, this was
yes.
another great selection. Thank you, Heather. I'm glad we covered Wisconsin because I can't remember another band that we listened to before from that region. So
I can't
Cool.
either. I
Well,
can't
good.
either. So
Well,
this is, yeah, so we recently talked about a band from Kentucky, and I don't think we've covered a band from Kentucky before either. So now
I
we
think,
have Wisconsin
yeah, I think we're slowly checking off all the states, and I know
and
we're,
country.
yeah, countries may take a while, but I know we've done, I mean, except for Antarctica, I think we've done every
Yeah.
continent. So we're
Yeah.
on our way.
Yeah.
Representation is important.
Yes. Yes. It really
Well,
is.
yes. Well, I really dug Vanishing Kids. I'm excited to go back and listen to the rest of their albums. And thanks again for suggesting them.
Yes. You're welcome.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to returning next week to discuss Slow Green Thing.
Oh yeah, it is Slow Green Thing. Oh,
Yep.
we're gonna review their new album.
Review the album. So
Yes, that
that'll
is
be
gonna
fun.
that's gonna be. I'm really looking forward to that.
Me too. All right.
Yeah.
Well, have a good one, everyone out there in the internet, and we will see you next week.
Bye.